Hello again, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this Sunday's edition of Alaska Weather, 22nd day of August, 2021. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service. I'll be hosting today's show. First, we've got Haisley's weather, fire danger. Kind of a little bit of an increase there. Actually, the southern slopes of the Eastern Brooks Range area, north of the Yukon Flats area, just a little bit of an increase, that area there, edging into the high category in areas. Otherwise, the remainder of the state too damp and cold for any serious fire danger. It looks like it'll probably stay that way for the next several days. Moving on to the hazardous weather graphics, no watches, advisories, warnings out anywhere around the state, northern interior, nothing out west. In fact, really light winds in store for the Aleutians, Bering Sea coming up in the next couple of days, and just about elsewhere as well. Cold start this morning over the eastern interior, Copper River Basin, Tok down to 24 degrees this morning for an overnight low. And that classifies as a killing freeze, I believe at 26 Fahrenheit, for horticultural purposes, makes for a killing freeze. 26, 24 definitely in the area there, 27 at Gulkana, and Chicken came in at 28, and Paxson 29 Fahrenheit, and off to the west, Farewell dropped to 31 degrees this morning. Of course, more cloudiness came in sooner out west there, and kind of held temperatures up, but stayed clear there over the eastern interior. And that lasted in the afternoon, so these temperatures rising into the mid to upper 60s during the afternoon hours, and even warmer over the Panhandle. See a lot of clear skies and sunshine over all of the southeast coast. Temperatures in the lower 70s in some locations. Haines was up to 72. That's mid-afternoon temperature, not the highs. So probably be something above that. And then Gustavus, Hoona, even down at Ketchikan, 70 degrees at 2 to 3 this afternoon. And mid to upper 60s there for the eastern interior, Copper River Basin areas as well, and even lower 60s into the Matanuska Valley. Stayed dry at least through most of the afternoon. Rain spreading northeastward from Cook Inlet there, all the way up into at least Anchorage, probably the southern Susitna Valley. Not sure if it made it in the Matanuska Valley yet, but it will shortly. Just a matter of time. Probably within the next hour or two, it'll make it into the Fair area. And otherwise, kind of a wet day, but rainfall amounts not too terribly heavy. Dillingham picked up 1/4 of an inch in the last 12 hours, and Akiak there, southwest Kodiak Island, had the heaviest amount of about 1/2 an inch there, and about 1/3 of an inch falling at Sparavon, Russian Mission, and at Bethel in the last 12 hours. And farther to the west, Alaska Peninsula, rain tapered off this afternoon, became more showery, but not before Cold Bay and Sand Point picked up about 2/3 of an inch of precipitation there. And wind's not really much of a factor with this system, maybe gust 25 to possibly as high as 30 miles an hour in some areas, mostly along the coast, southwest coast, Alaska Peninsula, and that's about it as far as that goes. Rolling this again, you can see the clouds shifting northeastward and northward, and staying clear over the areas south of the eastern Yukon River, down across the eastern Alaska Range, Copper River Basin, and the Panhandle. But weak washing out front brought a little bit of precipitation up along the northwest coast. The heaviest amounts there were scattered showers over the Brooks Range, North Slope and Arctic coast, just a few hundredths of an inch there. The exception being Kivalina and Kelly picking about 2/10 of an inch of precipitation today. And that's about 2 heavier amounts up that way. Otherwise, pretty light elsewhere. And moisture from the next system kind of spreading some clouds and maybe a little bit of rain tonight up toward the central Aleutian area. Is kind of a weak warm front or trough there. But that won't last, as that system expected to weaken and then shift southward again for tomorrow. Anyway, rolling this again, you can see the counterclockwise circulation with the polar low still off the Arctic coast there to the north, but the winds lightening up from what they had been, although, let's see, it was gust of 30 miles an hour out of the west there at Ugnu-Kaparik, at the airport Ugnu-Kaparik, and everywhere else, though, was down basically under 20 miles an hour for the wind gusts. That was the one holdout area holding on to the wind, but those will come down tonight as well. Today there's that really weak front and a band of light shower activity along that from the northwest coast up across along the Brooks Range to the eastern north slope, and then fair to the south of that, but increasing mid and high level clouds coming up into the lower and mid Yukon River Valley, trying to spread in now into the Fairbanks area, western or the central interior to Tanana Valley, and the rain pushing northward across Cook Inlet, northeastward in the Kenai Peninsula, up into northern Cook Inlet this afternoon, at least the southern Susitna Valley, and extending back to about Kodiak Island, again, that front right there where the half-inch fell at AKwx, and becoming lighter and more showery, if not ending altogether in some areas for the Alaska Peninsula, with lingering showers around Unalaska Island, but maybe a few breaks as well, as you can see in the cloud pattern there. And lots of sunshine over the Panhandle, light winds, temperatures, again, lower 70s, 70, 75 probably for the afternoon highs in many locations there, otherwise in the 60s. And could see temperatures pushing 70 in Copper River Basin here currently and over the next couple hours, but definitely seeing clouds increase. You'll see tonight the forecast rain increases, continues to increase southern Kenai Peninsula into Prince William Sound, edging eastward, possibly reaching Cape St. Elias toward morning, so not a big push to the east, but look for a general cloudy, wet night, Cook Inlet, Susitna Valley, even the Matanuska Valley, and showers tried to develop over the Copper River Basin and up toward the Alaska Range. Not much getting north of the mountains tonight, maybe some light rain or showers into eastern Norton Sound, Nulato Hills, to about maybe Kalskag, Galena, possibly, and stays unsettled at low near Nivak Island along the southwest coast to about the Kuskokwim Mountain areas. So you may be mostly dry for the Kuskokwim Valley with the precipitation shifting off to the western Alaska Range. Chance of showers, Alaska Peninsula, Fox Islands, and just a threat of some rain there for the Adak-Atka area, that system, and that frontal boundary, just a trough, those showers just about gone. Stays fair over the Panhandle with light winds, and light winds also over the southern Bering Sea and the Aleutians. Now continuing to tomorrow, weak ridging out there, light winds and dry conditions. That system now farther to the south and much weaker, but look for low clouds and fog to become quite prevalent out that way, but also could see some sun breaks as well during the day tomorrow along the Aleutians. Maybe not so much for the Alaska Peninsula, but just some shower activity there. It stays cloudy and showery over the southwest coast as well as the interior into the Kuskokwim Valley, and periods of rain or showers, cloudy skies, cool temperatures. Southern half of Alaska with the kind of another front generating, not a real strong system, but now keep the chance of rain going along the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound tomorrow, and begin to increase it along the north coast of the Panhandle late in the day, possibly maybe getting into Elfin Cove toward evening. But look for an increase in the clouds there across the Panhandle during the afternoon, especially along the coast, but it'll stay dry through the day. Drier with possible clearing over the northern half of the state, even the Arctic coast, but some lingering light rain and moisture possibly hanging on to the eastern north slope. And then for Tuesday, better chance for rain, eastern Arctic coast all the way through and expands. Central interior looks cloudy, wet, and cool with cloudy, showery conditions. Southern Alaska, even the Copper River Basin. Periods of light rain continue. North Gulf Coast, light rain, nothing heavy. And that front washes out and spreads a chance of rain into the southern coast of the Panhandle. Areas to the east, Stewart, Hyder, may not see anything at all, just an increase in the clouds, but best chance of rain, northern Panhandle, especially Yakutat to Elfin Cove back toward Cordova. Risk of a shower, Kodiak Island, light winds, and light winds continue over the Aleutians. Again, Adak and Atka just getting grazed by a weak system just to the south of the area there. And otherwise, another weak low keeps showers in the forecast over the western Aleutians, but dry over the northern Bering Sea. And maybe some clearing as well, with also some areas of low clouds and fog up along the north slope with that high settled in right over the central Arctic coast. And for lows tonight, 45 to 50 for the Panhandle, as well as most areas southern Alaska, lower 50s, Bristol Bay, Kodiak Island, upper 40s, definitely warmer with the clouds for the Copper River Basin. Highs tomorrow, 65 to 70 southern southeast coast, 60 65 in the north, otherwise upper 50s everywhere else over southern Alaska, maybe 60 Kodiak. Lows Tuesday morning, mid to upper 40s to near 50 in some locations like Kodiak and over the Panhandle, and highs 55 to 62, and that's about it. Upper 50s for the southeast coast. Lows tonight, 28 to 32 for the Arctic coast and North Slope, otherwise 40s. Central interior, followed by highs tomorrow, upper 50s to lower 60s, maybe mid 60s for the Tok Northway area. And lows 30 to 35 North Slope Arctic coast, 45 to 50 central interior. Highs in the upper 50s for the Tanana Valley to lower 60s again over toward Northway and Tok, mid 30s for the Arctic coast. And out in the southwest, lows tonight 45 to 52, highs tomorrow.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Flying weather, North Slope, or actually Brooks Range, on out to the Arctic coast, and actually to the Arctic coast and beyond, and the northwest coast of the Bering Strait, north shore of the Seward Peninsula. All IFR to start the day tomorrow. VFR, central Seward Peninsula, east-northeast there to the Yukon Flats, and then southward across the Upper Tanana Valley, Copper River Basin area. Marginal VFR, North Gulf Coast. VFR for the Panhandle. IFR from the western Alaska Range westward all the way into across the northern Bering Sea, Bristol Bay, Kodiak Island IFR, and all of the Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula, marginal VFR. For the afternoon, we've got, let's see, IFR now for St. Lawrence Island through the Bering Strait, southward to the Pribilofs, Aleutians basically IFR, as well as the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula. Pacific side, though, marginal VFR, Sandpoint eastward across Kodiak Island, Fogneck Island up into Cook Inlet, Kamishak, Kachemak Bay, Southern Kenai Peninsula, Resurrection Bay into Prince William Sound, all IFR tomorrow, right up to Passage Canal, IFR into the western Susitna Valley to the Alaska Range, and marginal VFR pushing eastward to about, west of Delta, but looks like as far east as Eielson Air Force Base, and northeastward there across the White Mountains to the Yukon River, and some improvement there for the North Slope. Looks like marginal VFR, same thing for the Arctic coast, and IFR and marginal VFR staying off the coast of the south of the Panhandle, so pretty good day there through the day Monday. And for Tuesday, IFR, Prince of Wales Island eastward across southern Panhandle there, Dixon Entrance, marginal VFR northern 3/4 of the southeast coast. And from about Yakutat westward, solid IFR, southern Alaska, just about there, Aleutians, areas of marginal VFR, southern Bering Sea, otherwise IFR up to the north there, but VFR for the Seward Peninsula, Kobuk and northern Koyukuk Valley, Notak Valley, northwest coast looking good, Point Hope, Cape Lisburne marginal to about Point Lay, and then Point Lay on east, IFR. For the afternoon Tuesday, IFR central eastern Arctic coast, right along the coastline, marginal VFR for the North Slope into the Brooks Range on the north side there, but south of the mountains, VFR, IFR from the central interior northeastward there, just along or south of the Yukon River, to about Eagle, 40-mile country, Upper Tanana Valley, eastern Alaska Range, holding on to some VFR conditions, marginal for the southeast coast, IFR North Gulf Coast, and Bering Sea Aleutians, IFR to St. Lawrence Island and Bristol Bay. Anaktuvik, marginal VFR, Adigan, IFR for the passes tomorrow, and Lake Clark and Merrill, Monday shaping up to be an IFR kind of day. Both approaches, both passes, rainy included. For Windy, IFR southern entrance, lowest conditions southern approach, otherwise marginal VFR. And for Isabel, marginal VFR tomorrow. Another VFR day though for Mentasta. And Tanita starting out VFR, becoming IFR during the latter part of the afternoon, downward trend. And Portage also a downward trend from the morning to the afternoon throughout the day, marginal VFR to IFR. And Chilcoot White, another VFR day coming up. For the freezing levels, At the surface there into the central north slope, 2,000 feet to the almost to the Brooks Range, but generally 4,000 to 6,000 feet there across the mountains, 8,000 feet central interior, 10,000 feet upper level ridge shifting off to the east there and taking the warmer air aloft with it. That's over the Panhandle, and 6,000 feet there just west of the Pribilofs. For icing, area of considerable moderate rime icing shifting up to the North Gulf Coast into Prince William Sound there, and otherwise, just like to very isolated, scattered areas of moderate or possibly mixed icing, Kodiak Island up into the central interior, but not quite making it to Yakutat and out toward Bristol Bay. For the jet stream, upper level low south of Prince William Sound, so southeasterly, south-southeasterly about 65 knots, and then west-southwest 60 to 90 knots there along the Brooks Range, 105 knots just grazing the eastern Aleutians out of the west. And at 9,000 feet, 35 to 40 knot winds from the southeast turn southerly and diminish over the southeast interior, and 20 to 25 knot winds for the eastern North Slope Central Arctic coast. 35 knotters across the Alaska Peninsula. Look for moderate chop, occasional moderate chop, lee side of the Alaska Peninsula, Prince William Sound, eastern North Gulf Coast.
Hello again, I'm meteorologist Dave Snyder with the National Weather Service with another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. And joining me today are not just one, but two people, both with the last name Stevens, which is even more fun, but no relation. We have Eric Stevens from GINA and George Stevens, who is a mechanical engineering student from the University of Alaska Fairbanks. Did I get that right?
Yep.
Awesome. And today you guys brought a really cool toy, or I should say tool, with you. It's a sandbox, but why are you guys working on a sandbox?
Well, it's part of our senior design project, and we were approached by EPSCoR to build this for them. They had a proof of concept that they developed about a year ago, I think, and they wanted a more robust version that they could pack onto a plane and take places, and it's a handy learning tool for kids and adults.
So you're a mechanical engineering student. You've built a traveling sandbox for the experimental program to stimulate competitive research, EPSCoR, and GINA's facilitated this. But why do we need a traveling sandbox?
Well, the prototype was such a big hit that they decided they wanted another one, actually two, that they could that would be easier to travel with, possibly marketable even.
Okay, so this is a traveling sandbox that's got a lot of bits and pieces and a computer hooked up to it. What is the computer doing with the sand?
The computer actually uses a Kinect sensor to read the topography of the sand or the shape of the sand, and then the computer translates that into information which it projects using a projector onto the sand, showing topographical lines and which is representative of the shape of the sand.
Okay, so this is a live mapping tool?
Yeah. It's interactive. As you're moving your hands through it, it is actively following and changing the lines to fit what you're doing.
That sounds like something I could have in my backyard.
Yep.
It'd be a lot of fun. So you guys had to change the design a little bit to make this more Alaska-fied, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, how'd you do that?
Well, the original was made out of basically lumber and Simpson strong tie type stuff, and we rebuilt it to make it lighter and basically more transportable. We can pack it down to a fairly small size, and it can be loaded onto a plane and flown anywhere in the state.
Which you guys did today. And you have plans to take this in other places of Alaska, right?
Yep, we're actually going to be headed down to Homer with it later today.
Okay, very good. Eric, how does this fit into science learning around Alaska?
Well, you know what? I think it is a tool and it is a toy. And it brings out a smile from an 8-year-old and the smile from a 48-year-old with that inner 8-year-old wanting to get out. The sandbox, it's an interactive learning tool that teaches us how topography in the 3 dimensions is related to, say, a 2-dimensional map. More about that later. Just like George was saying, it's got a Kinect sensor, not just for video games anymore. It can sense out the lay of the land there, feeds that information in the computer. Computer identifies that, sends a signal to a projector to send topographic lines to map over that lumpy ground. So you get a 3-dimensional topo map out of it. And my favorite thing about it, this is the thing that stops people at the trade show, they stop at your booth and don't leave, is that you run your hand through that sandbox and it responds in real time. It remaps the topography as you get to be Mr. Tectonic Plate Drifter there. You can make things how you want. Well, what if we made a really high mountain here and a low valley there, and the lines adjust to what you did? It's a learning tool because it shows you that connection between these two-dimensional topo lines and what's really out in Alaska. And Alaska's a place with all kinds of topography. You know, we're from the Great Plains, where topo maps tend to be just like blank pieces of paper, but Alaska is particularly gifted in this regard, and this tool helps us, I think, learn more about our state, really.
Absolutely. And so this is going to enhance STEM learning, the science, technology, engineering, and math, in many different locations around Alaska. Then this would be something that kids and teachers can get their hands on.
It sure is. And I mentioned the it's like fly paper at a booth that, or at the Science Potpourri when we had Greg's original version of this sandbox, and that one was made out of scraps of wood, and it was a prototype. But even that one, before it had some of the refinements that George and crew have made for this newer, upscaled, maybe a 2.0 version of the sandbox, even that one was so attractive to people. It just demonstrated that this has potential to be a learning tool, an outreach tool, an education tool that now is portable and can go places in Alaska. Of course, there's only one sandbox, can't be everywhere at once, but hopefully it gets out there, gets the word out about EPSCoR and what science is being done here for Alaskans.
All right, that sounds really interesting, and I can't wait to get my hands in the sand and try this out for myself. We're going to demonstrate this here in our next segment of Alaska Weather Facts, but before we go, we want to remind you that EPSCoR, which is a new acronym for me now, but I'm going to remember this because you can follow them on Facebook and Twitter, and I invite you to do that. Alaska EPSCoR is also something that facilitates science learning at the University of Alaska around the state, and that stands for Experimental Program to Stimulate Competitive Research. So check that out, and make sure you tune in tomorrow because we're going to have the next version where we actually get our hands in the sand and check out how this works and demonstrates that topography. So for now, I'm meteorologist Dave Snyder with this edition of Alaska Weather Facts, and we'll see you again next time.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at the coastal water forecast, light winds on the south coast there of the Panhandle from the south at 10 knots, seas 4 to 5 feet, and then 15 knots on the north coast, increase to 25 knots there farther to the north. From the southeast for small craft advisories and 6-foot seas tomorrow afternoon. Lynn Canal southeast 15 with 3-foot seas, variable light and variable winds central inner channels to south at 10 for Clarence Strait. And then the outlook for Tuesday, going on to Tuesday's forecast, we'll see southeast winds 15 knots, southern central inner channels, and south 15 for the northern inside waters. Seas all areas there about 3 feet give or take. And for the south coast, southerlies 15 to 20 knots, 5 to 6 foot seas, and still small craft advisories there in the extreme north coast. Out of the southeast, 25 knots with 8-foot seas. And for Prince William Sound, Monday, northeast winds 20 knots, seas 4 feet. Eastern North Gulf Coast, small craft advisories, a good stiff east wind at 30 knots with 8 to 9 foot seas. Gale warnings out for the western North Gulf Coast of the Barren Islands. East winds 35 knots, seas just under 10 feet. And Northern Cook Inlet, small craft advisory, northeast 25, seas 5 feet, northerlies at 20 for Southern Cook Inlet, and northeast 20 for Kamishak Bay. Tuesday, lighter, more variable winds for Cook Inlet down to 10 knots from basically the north on average, of seas 3 feet or less, variable at 10 for Kamishak Bay, with slight seas, northwest 20 for the Barren Islands, and southeast 25, so small craft advisories there for the eastern North Gulf Coast with 7-foot seas. Prince William Sound, northeast winds 20 knots, seas 4 feet. Kodiak Island there, east side, small craft advisories, west winds 25 knots tomorrow, 6-foot seas, Shelikof Strait, northerlies at 20 knots. And from Sitkinak to Cape Sarachev, west winds 20 knots, seas 6 to 7 feet. And from Cape Sarachev up across Bristol Bay there, north side of the Alaska Peninsula, southwest winds 20 knots, seas 5 to 7 feet. Tuesday, west winds 15 knots, Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula, light variable conditions at 10 knots with seas at 5 feet for the Pacific side of the peninsula. Sitkinak up the east side of Kodiak Island all the way back to Castle Cape. West winds 15 knots, light variable winds for Shelikof Strait, and Bristol Bay, southwest winds 15 knots. Western Aleutians from Adak westward, variable winds at 10 knots, really laid down out there with 4-foot seas, and then Pacific side of Adak and Atka, east winds 15 knots. Unmak Island, southwest 15. On Alaska Island, southwest 20 knots, sea 6 feet. Tuesday, on Alaska Island, east-northeast 15 knots, variable to east at 10 knots, or 10 to 15 knots for Unmak Island. Variable winds, Bering Sea side of Adak and Atka to north 15. Pacific side, and Amchitka Island northwest at 20. Small craft advisories, Kiska to Shimia on Tuesday and Tuesday afternoon for northwest winds coming up to 30 knots, seas at 11 feet. Southern Nunivak Islands, winds will be southerly at 20 knots with 7-foot seas. Pribilof, small craft advisories, west winds 25 knots, north 25 for St. Matthew Island, 15-knot northeast breeze for the Yukon Delta coast, and north at 20 for St. Lawrence Island. And for Tuesday, St. Lawrence Island, pick up in the winds there, sustained northeast 30 knots, 6-foot seas, small craft advisories, St. Matthew Island for 25-knot winds. Light variable winds now for the Pribilofs at 10 knots, seas 3 feet, and north winds at 20 knots for the Yukon Delta coast. Up along the eastern Boulevard Sea coast, west or west-northwest 10 to 15 knots, seas 3 feet. Central coast, call it west at 15, and then northeast 15 on the west side. And Cape Beaufort to Cape Thompson, northeast at 20. Cape Thompson to Wales, northeast 15. Small craft advisories from Wales up to Cape Thompson on Tuesday. North winds 25 knots, seas 7 feet. 20-knot winds, Cape Thompson, Cape Beaufort. And then light winds, kind of variable for the western central Arctic coast, and even the east side, call it variable at 5 to 10 knots with seas 2 to 3 feet. For tonight, washed out trough up there along the north slope of the eastern Arctic coast, just some scattered shower activity with diminishing clouds, but periods of rains. South central Alaska, trying to get into the Copper River Basin, but stays fair over the Panhandle and unsettled along the west coast into the southeast Bering. And for tomorrow, another system pushes more rain chances up to the North Gulf Coast. Stays kind of cloudy and damp for south central Alaska up to about the Alaska Range. And then on Tuesday, rain pushes into the Panhandle. It looks pretty wet over the central and eastern interior.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.